Hey, everybody, welcome back. We are diving into a pretty tricky situation today, the Florida housing market.
Oh, yeah.
You think Florida sunshine, beaches, vacation homes? What could possibly go wrong?
Right?
But while the rest of the U.S. is seeing home sales climb, 5 major Florida cities are seeing theirs plummet.
Ugh.
And we're not talking about a small dip either. Fort Lauderdale's down 15.2%.
Oof. That's
So what on earth is causing this sudden shift, and why should you care, even if you're miles away from the Sunshine State?
well, it's not just one single factor. It's like a perfect storm of different things.
Oh, perfect storm. I like that analogy. What's brewing in this metaphorical weather system?
Okay, well, first you got to consider the literal storms Florida's been dealing with. 3 major hurricanes just this year, Debbie, Helene, and Milton.
Right, those are rough.
Yeah, widespread destruction, loss of life-wrecked homes and businesses.
So that alone obviously has a major impact on
Oh,
things.
absolutely. And then, of course, that leads to insurance going up, mortgages too, even the basic cost of living. It's all skyrocketing.
So suddenly that Florida lifestyle isn't quite so affordable anymore.
Not for a lot of people. And then you add in the whole condo situation, which was already a bit shaky.
Right, condos being much more exposed to hurricane damage in the first place.
Exactly. And after that horrible condo collapse in Surfside a few years back, Florida got a lot stricter about condo safety, particularly for older buildings.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't want another tragedy like that.
No, absolutely not. So now anything 30 years or older, 3 stories or taller, has to get inspected.
I mean, that sounds like a good thing for safety, but I can see how that might create some issues for people buying and selling.
Yeah, well, think about it. These inspections often uncover some really expensive repairs that owners weren't prepared for.
Right.
Imagine getting hit with a massive bill to bring your condo up to code. Some people are choosing to sell, even at a loss, just to avoid it.
Right.
And then buyers, of course, are hesitant to get involved in that kind of situation.
So you've got rising costs from the hurricanes, plus these potentially enormous repair bills from inspections. But is that really enough to scare off all buyers?
It's definitely spooking first-time buyers.
I bet.
I mean, they're already facing high costs everywhere, and this just adds another layer of uncertainty. Plus, HOA fees are going up, too.
HOA fees. I always thought those were just for like basic upkeep, like keeping the pool clean and mowing the lawn.
Well, those things, too. But those costs are rising. And on top of that, HOAs are often the ones footing the bill for those big building repairs we talked about.
So the costs just get passed down to the condo owners.
Yep, it's a domino effect.
Hmm.
Hurricanes lead to higher costs, regulations lead to more expenses, and it all lands on the condo owners in the end.
No wonder people are rethinking Florida living.
It's putting a lot of pressure on longtime residents, too. People who are finding themselves priced out of the communities they've always called home.
That's got to be tough.
It is. And a lot of them are tired of this boom and bust cycle. Florida's known for prices spike, then they crash, and it just creates a lot of instability.
Yeah, that feeling of never knowing what's coming next.
Exactly. It makes it really hard to plan for the future.
So we're seeing a full-on exodus from Florida then. People just packing up and heading for states that are less hurricane prone.
Yeah. Yeah, you could say that. And it brings up a really important point.
Okay.
What happens in Florida's housing market doesn't always stay in Florida.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's all connected.
It is.
Like what happens in one market can ripple outward.
Yeah.
So what does this Florida situation mean for those of us not planning on buying a condo in Miami anytime soon?
Well, for one thing, all those folks leaving Florida, they need to go somewhere, right?
Right?
So you could see increased demand in other states.
Yeah.
Maybe even driving up prices in places that used to be more affordable.
Ah, so like a migration wave with the potential to push up costs in other markets.
Exactly. And then there's the financial side of things.
Okay.
Lenders are watching the situation very carefully.
Yeah.
If they start seeing a lot of defaults on mortgages and condo loans in Florida, they might tighten up their lending standards everywhere.
Oh, wow. So Florida's struggles could actually make it harder for people to buy homes in other states.
It's possible. It's all interconnected. And we can't forget about insurance either.
Right.
Those huge payouts for hurricane damage in Florida, those costs have to be covered somehow.
Yeah.
So we could see insurance premiums going up, not just in Florida, but in other hurricane-prone areas too.
So a localized crisis could actually lead to a more cautious lending environment nationwide and potentially impact insurance costs in other coastal areas.
Like a chain reaction.
Wow. And those are just the immediate effects.
Right. What happens if Florida's tourism industry takes a hit?
Oh, yeah. Florida's economy relies so heavily on tourism.
Exactly. Fewer people visiting fewer people investing in vacation homes. It all adds up.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So if people start viewing Florida as a risky place to visit or own property,
Yeah.
that could have a big impact on the state's economy.
Absolutely. And here's something else to consider. Florida is dealing with some unique challenges, but they're also facing issues that a lot of coastal areas are going to have to deal with eventually. Climate change, rising sea levels, stricter building codes. What's happening there now might be a preview of what's to come for other parts of the country.
So Florida's situation is like a canary in the coal mine.
You could say that, a warning sign for other coastal communities that are dealing with similar pressures.
It sounds like this goes way beyond just one state's housing market.
Oh, it absolutely does. It really highlights how interconnected everything is. The housing market, the economy, the environment.
Right, all tied together. So how can people use this information to make smart decisions, whether they're in Florida or Maine or anywhere else?
Even if you're nowhere near a hurricane zone, this Florida situation should make you think about your own local housing market.
Yeah, like what are the trends? Are costs rising? Are
Yeah.
regulations changing? Is climate change a factor in my area?
Exactly. Those are all good questions to ask. And if you're thinking about buying a home,
Right, whether it's your primary residence or a vacation property.
yeah, do your homework. Don't jump into a purchase without really understanding the market, the property itself, and any potential risks involved.
Like what kind of risks are we talking about specifically?
We'll look into things like insurance costs, HOA fees, the age and condition of the building, especially for condos. Those things can make a big difference down the line.
So it's not just about crunching the numbers.
Right. It's also about the bigger picture, the long-term sustainability of our communities and the choices we make as homeowners.
I like that, conscious homeownership.
Mm-hmm.
So to wrap things up today, we took a deep dive into the Florida housing market. We explored how hurricanes, new regulations, rising costs, and hesitant buyers are all contributing to this perfect storm.
Yeah, it's a complex situation for sure.
And we even talked about how this could impact the rest of the U.S. housing market and the economy as a whole.
Absolutely. It's all connected.
It seems like what's happening in Florida is a much bigger story than just one state's housing market.
It really is. It highlights the connection between the housing market, the environment, and the economy. And it underscores the need to think critically about the choices we make, both individually and as a society.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Florida housing market. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and as always, happy learning.